رب أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي أنزل القرآن الكريم والفرقان الحكيم على النبي الحليم الذي هو على خلق عظيم، وجعله الدليل على خير سبيل، وكتابا فيه تفصيل وبيان وتحصيل، ظاهره أنيق وباطنه عميق، لا تحصى عجائبه ولا تبلى غرائبه. والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على من أرسل حجة للعالمين، وكان نبيا وآدم بين الماء والطين، سيدنا ونبينا وشفيعنا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا المصطفى الأمجد والرسول المسدد أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من يوم عداوتهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم كتابه المبين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم، تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا، سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود، ذلك مثلهم في التوراة ومثلهم في الإنجيل كزرع أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستغلظ فاستوى على سوقه يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار. وعد الله الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات منهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. So first of all, it is way too beautiful up here for someone like me to be sitting here. MashaAllah. Usually when I sit up, I tell them take all the flowers away, everything, because this ugly face doesn't really match the decor. But thank you for your kindness, and it is my distinct honor to be here. Sister Fadak has been in touch with me for so long, and finally I've been lucky enough to make it here. So it is my distinct pleasure and my distinct honor to be here with all of you, and in particular in the presence of Samahat al-Sayyid Baqir al-Kashmiri, who not only the Wakil of Samahat al-Sayyid al-Sistani, may Allah preserve him, and the other Maraja, a person I look up to and a good friend of mine, and all of the respected elders and the community members as well. Let me begin by telling you a short waqa. When Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam left this world, they say that the Shia, the followers, wanted to know who is the next Imam. Now there were some close to Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam who knew, because Imam always pointed to the next Imam. The one who was about to pass always said, the next Imam will be such and such. So in some cases the Shia knew, but in some cases the Shia did not know, because the Shia had spread to different parts of the world. They had expanded, they had moved out. So two men describe that after the demise of Abu Abdullah As-Sadiq alayhi salam, they said, we didn't know what to do. They describe in their own words. They said, we went to the house of Imam As-Sadiq, who had now passed from the world, and they said, we saw his son Abdullah. Abdullah was sitting there and he was proclaiming that he was the next leader, the next guy. And he was answering fiqhi questions. He was answering the questions of the people. And the two men, they say, we came into the presence of the son of As-Sadiq alayhi salam. We stood and we looked at him, and we weren't sure, we didn't know. Although some people were accepting him, we didn't know. So we asked him a question. We said, what do you say is the zakat for $200 or 200? And he would say, that is 5. So 5 out of 200 is 2.5%. Then they said, what do you say about the zakat for 100? He said, well, that will only be half of that. It will only be 2.5. Now they became confused at this answer because, as you all know, that zakat is only applied after a certain amount of that thing that has been collected or has been accrued. Below that amount, there is no zakat that is due. When they heard the answer of Abdullah ibn Ja'far, they became confused. They relate that they came out of the house and they felt uneasiness. Now, when I tell you this story, I want you to think about yourselves. Think about how you feel sometimes when it comes to your own faith and you are trying to find something to hold on to. Something in a society where the vast majority of the people don't necessarily follow your religion or necessarily believe what you do. So these two men come out, they relay that we were feeling uneasy. And we were looking at each other with this uneasiness of what should we do? We don't know who the next Imam is after As-Sadiq alayhi salam. One of the men, he says, I noticed an old man was looking at me. He was staring at me. I became afraid. And when I became afraid, I said to my companion that, look, somebody is staring at me. He is probably a spy from the Banu Abbas who is spying on us, Shia. He said, I think he only wants harm to me. You go, leave here. So the one man, he tells his companion, go away from here. The companion quickly leaves. The man who now is alone, he starts to walk. The old man approaches him. He says to him, come with me. My master wants to talk to you. So he goes, he follows, he describes himself. He says, I felt like I had no choice. I felt like I had no choice in the matter, that if I didn't go with him, I would be in trouble. Some harm would come to me. We feel this way sometimes in our lives, that if I don't follow what is happening in society or what is being fed to me, what is being imposed on me, I will be in harm. So he says, I followed the old man. I came into a room, and there I saw Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi as-salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. They say, the son of As-Sadiq, Musa ibn Ja'far, he was sitting in the place where he called him, obviously in secrecy. He says, I came in, the Imam looked at me. This man is describing. He says, Imam looked at me, this man looked at me, Musa ibn Ja'far looked at me, and he says, don't go to the Qadariyya, don't go to the Mu'tazila, don't go to the Murji'ah, taking the names of different sects that had formed in that time. He says, don't go to any of those. He says, Ilayya, Ilayya, Ilayya. Come to me, come to me. Pointing that, I am the next Imam. Now the man, he didn't know. He says, I went to Musa ibn Ja'far and I asked him, I said, are you the guide for all of us after your father? Are you the guide for us after your father? Now listen to the answer of Imam Kadhim. Imam Kadhim, he says, I'm not saying that. He doesn't say yes. He doesn't say no. He says, I'm not saying that. So the man thought, he says, maybe I should change my question. He says, instead I said, do you have an Imam that you follow? He asked him in a roundabout way. He said, do you have an Imam that you follow? Imam al-Kadhim, he says, no. The man says, I knew now that this is the successor of Ja'far ibn Muhammad alayhi salam, that he is the next Imam. He says, I began to ask him all my questions and everything that I had doubt about, everything, and he answered everything to my full satisfaction. He says, I knew immediately that this was the Imam who will guide me. He says, I went, I found my companion who was with me, I told him, and we knew that Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam was the next rightful Imam, the divinely chosen Imam of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salam. So they go back. Now you see that, why am I telling you this story? Because in any case, like I said, we are all looking for something to hold on to. We are all trying to find some pillar to hold on to. Because every human being experiences moments in which their faith is shaken. It happens, it's part of life. Particularly when you live in a society that doesn't support the development of that Iman. And I am not talking about Western or Eastern. Let me ask you a question. If you live here in Springfield or in this area, in the DC area, and you have all of these beautiful centers with you, where you can attend, you can do Salat al-Jama'ah, you pray together, you have majlis, you have Friday khutbah, your kids come to school here, you come and eat together. Not only are you Muslims in one congregation, but you are Shia in one congregation. Would your faith, your adherence to religion here, in this center, in this place, be the same as it would be if you moved out to the middle of, let's say, Nebraska? And I don't know, maybe there are Shia, I'm sure there are Shia. In fact, I know there are. I picked a bad example. Pick any state where there are no Shia. Let's say you move there because that's the only place you can get a job. There's no halal food, nothing. You can only eat fish, or you do your own dhabiha. I don't know how many people do that. It's really good to have your own dhabiha. Then you're not dependent on anyone. So you go out there, and now you have to practice without a center, without a community, without a school, without a jama'ah, without anything. Will your faith be the same there as it is here? That's a good question to think about. Because if it is the same, then mashallah, something inside of you is deeply implanted. You're anchored. But if it's not, if your deen, your aqidah, your iltizam, your adherence to religion changes from place to place to place to place to circumstance, then you are liable to falter. And you see, the example of the A'imma al-Athhar is that example. Is the example of a consistent message that began with Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam and went all the way through Al-Hujjah, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. And you see from Surah Al-Fatih, I recited this last ayah, the 29th ayah from the 48th surah, in which Allah describes Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam by taking his name. And we start with Rasulullah because obviously Rasul is the divine appointee from whom the A'imma al-Athhar have come. They are the deputies of this Rasul of ours. So now he comes, and not only is he named that Muhammadun Rasulullah, Muhammad is the Rasul, but now the ayah, it describes those who are with him. And it says, وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ. These people are strong in their dealing with the disbelievers. And not just the disbelievers, but the dissidents, the ones who were causing trouble to Islam. And they are merciful amongst themselves. Now, these verses, these first parts of the verse, what do they describe? They describe insan's action with respect to somebody else. Insan's dealing with someone else. They are strong against an enemy, someone who is potentially going to harm, and they are merciful amongst each other. These are social relationships. And then the ayah, what does it say? تَرَاهُمْ رُكَّعًا سُجَّدًا يَبْتَغُونَ فَضْلًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرِضْوَانًا. You see them, they are in prostration, they are bowing, they're constantly seeking from God. Now Allah, after describing the social aspect, the dealing of each other, he talks about each one. You see them prostrating, you see them bowing. سِيمَاهُمْ فِي وُجُوهِهِمْ مِنْ أَثَرِ السُّجُودِ. You can see the marks of tranquility on their heads from how much prostration they do. And they are so great that it has been mentioned about them in the Tawrat and in the Injil. Now, this ayah, if you look at it, it describes the ideology of Islam. It describes the ethos of Islam. It talks about Rasul as the anchor. It talks about those who are with Rasulullah. And it describes how they interact. It talks even about the kuffar. Strangely enough, it talks about the kuffar, and it describes how Rasul dealt with them. And in everything Rasulullah did, he gave us an example. And he said, this example applies not only to my life in the Hijaz or in Mecca or in Medina, but to any time. Now, there was a man in the time of Rasulullah. How many of you have heard of Mut'am ibn Aday? Anyone heard of him? Mut'am ibn Aday. Mut'am ibn Aday was a idol worshipper of Quraysh. So let me tell you a story, before you guys all fall asleep. It's 8:30, it's cold outside. At least, alhamdulillah, Imam Ali Center is nice and warm. So you can fall asleep. Don't worry, I give you permission. Fall asleep. Allah will bless. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. This is what my wife says. He'll keep talking, I'll be fast asleep, he won't even notice. That's me. So I don't mind. If you fall asleep, you fall asleep. Okay, so Rasulullah, when he was in Mecca, he was being persecuted. And again, I'm going to repeat the same thing to you. That think about what I say with respect to your own life, with respect to what you face on a daily basis. Rasul, he left Mecca, he went to Ta'if. You know this, that in the early years after the Ba'atha, after proclaiming the message of Islam, he had faced so much persecution, so much tyranny and difficulty. He left Mecca, he went to Ta'if. In Ta'if, he faced the same type of difficulty. The children will throw, they say the children would throw so many stones at Rasulullah that he would bleed from the wounds, and the blood would trickle down his leg, and it will get caught in the slipper, and the slipper will get stuck to his foot. That's how much he bled. Rasul stayed in Ta'if for a while, and after remaining there a little while, he had to return to Mecca. He knew he had to go, but he was concerned that in Mecca they were plotting to kill him. The idol worshippers were waiting that Rasul is going to come back from Ta'if. Good opportunity, they'll ambush him, they will kill him. So he knew. So he sent a messenger back to Mecca. He says, look, I want safe passage, and I want somebody to ensure that I will be safe when I return back to Mecca. Rasul was smart, he thought. So he sent the messenger. In the meantime, he left Ta'if. He went to a place called Nakhla. Nakhla was a place in between Ta'if and Mecca. He stopped there. When he stopped in Nakhla, he kept waiting. The messenger came to him. He said to him, there is a man named Mut'am ibn Aday. He has guaranteed, he is a quote-unquote kafir, idol worshipper of Quraysh, who has guaranteed, he is one of the senior of Quraysh, one of the tribal leaders, respected. He has guaranteed that you will be protected, O Muhammad, if you come back. Rasul takes it. Now, I ask you, if any kafir, so-called kafir, comes out and says, I guarantee your protection, would you accept it? You would be afraid, wouldn't you? You wouldn't trust that these people who have been persecuting you, these people who have been tyrannizing you, why should he protect? Maybe he's lying. But you see, Rasul accepts the word. He accepts the honor of this kafir, this quote-unquote kafir, this idol worshipper, and says, I'm going to go back. So now Rasul comes. As he enters into the area of the Kaaba, they say men like Abu Sufyan, Abu Lahab, other people, they're waiting to attack. They were waiting. They knew Rasul was coming. They were waiting. The minute Rasul walks into the courtyard of the Kaaba, Mut'am ibn Aday, he calls his sons, he says, go make a circle around Muhammad. Go make a circle. They go immediately, obey their father, make a circle around Rasulullah, and they follow Rasul. They become his guards, essentially. As soon as Abu Sufyan, other Qurayshi leaders see this, that Mut'am ibn Aday's sons have protected Muhammad, they back off. They decide they are not going to attack anymore. So they pull their hands back and they say, we can't do anything now. Mut'am ibn Aday joins his sons. They escort Rasulullah into the area of the Kaaba. Rasul does his tawaf of the Kaaba. After finishing his rites from the Kaaba, he goes and he spends the night in Mut'am ibn Aday's house, an idol worshipper. After spending the night there, or maybe some nights, he returns back to his home. Now fast forward a few years. As you see, Rasul leaves Mecca, goes to Medina. They say in that time, Mut'am ibn Aday dies. He dies in Mecca. After some time, the Battle of Badr takes place. In the Battle of Badr, the Muslims defeat the Quraysh army, and not only do they defeat, they take prisoners. They take prisoners from the kuffar of Quraysh. Do you know what Rasul says, or he is heard as saying? He says, I remember Mut'am ibn Aday, and I remember his goodness. They say Rasool used to remember him. This kafir who died, Rasool says, I remember him. He says, if Mut'am was alive today after the Battle of Badr and he had asked me to free these prisoners of war from the kuffar, I would have freed them for Mut'am ibn Adai. This is the honor of Islam. This is ideology of Islam. What we do is we see the name kafir and we say, oh, this is a villain in front of us, isn't it? We label them, we judge them, and we have dealt with them immediately. Yet Rasool, after that event of Ta'if, always remembered Mut'am ibn Adai with goodness, because of the goodness he treated him with, the fairness. Now whatever his judgment in front of Allah is a different issue. That's not what we are talking about here. But you see, Islam establishes an ideology for you. And that is the way of imamat. Imamat, Risala starts. And as soon as Risala is complete, imamat's job is to maintain and preserve that message through time. And that's what it is for you. And the same question that can be asked, that over the course of your life, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 year of life, my grandfather, alhamdulillah, is 100 years old. In that span of the life, you are going to go through up and down and up and down. You're going to live through different circumstances. You're going to experience difficulties. What's going to happen to your faith and your religion during that span of 80 years, 90 years? That is the question to ask. And how is it that you ensure that that religion stays as constant and the most constant thing in life? Everything else can change, religion doesn't change. Your adherence to religion doesn't change. The answer to that, my dear brothers and sisters, is imamat. And I will explain to you why. The answer to it is imamat because imamat ingrains inside of you a deep understanding of religion. Yes? When we talk about Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala, we talk about a man who did the greatest of feats in terms of courage and valor and fortitude, but indeed the one who was the most foresighted. His wisdom was greater than everyone else's. He saw the ramification. And you see, religion, when it spreads by knowledge, by understanding, it is a lot stronger. And how has Islam spread all over the world? Islam, second largest religion in the world, next to Christianity, fastest growing religion in the world, fastest in the United States for sure. How is it growing? In the old days, oftentimes it spread because of war. Did it not? Because when the Prophet died, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam passed from this world, the Khulafa, the Muslim Ummah is safe. There is no more kuffar of Quraysh. Mecca has been liberated. No one is really assaulting them with any frequency. There are some skirmishes and battles. So now the people, when there's no battle, what do? You sit at home and the husband annoys the wife annoys the husband, right? And life becomes complicated. So what did they say? They said, well, let's take these military expeditions to quote unquote spread Islam and go and spread it. Now, strange thing is, even in the life of Rasulullah, when the battles used to happen to fight the invaders, the people who were threatening Islam, did everyone go out to fight? The ayah of the Holy Quran, when everyone wants to, well, look, if you're going to be promised 72 huri, like they say, right, like is proclaimed, everyone's going to want to fight, right? Everyone says, let me go fight and I'll be the first one to die, inshallah. In that case, everyone should go. But is that the case? It's not the case, because even when the battles took place, some people stayed behind in Medina. Not everyone went to fight. Not every able-bodied man went to fight. And the Holy Quran, it explains. And the one great ayah that is always mentioned, وَمَا كَانَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لِيَنْفِرُوا كَافَّةً فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ مِّنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ لِيَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ. You all know this ayah, that when the Muslims went out to fight, when the believers went out to fight, not all of them went. Some of them remained. Why? So they can develop deep understanding of religion. Tafaqqah. Deep understanding of religion. وَلِيُنذِرُوا قَوْمَهُمْ إِذَا رَجَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَحْذَرُونَ. So that eventually when they leave and go back to their families, their tribes, their people, they can teach them the deep knowledge that they know. Why? Because Islam won't spread by the sword. It's not going to spread by forcing. It's not going to spread by coercion. It will spread by virtue of knowledge. Why? Because knowledge is what gives you depth. And depth is what anchors you. When the whole society changes, you will stay what you are. Because you are anchored by knowledge, not by society. And that's what you see in A'imma al-Athar. In the time from after the events of Ashura, you see the lives of our Imams, all the way to the one we are celebrating today, Imam al-Askari, alayhi salatu wassalam. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. I hope there's something good for dinner tonight. Sister Fadak, kebab maybe, I think, right? Come on, it's a celebration. Or is it only good kebab during Majlis Aza, I think? No, in all events, I think we should have. Cake for sure. You want an excuse to have cake, you'd say it's birthday of Imam, we have to have cake tonight, right? Oh, that's it, you have to have cake. Cake of every kind, and we say it for Imam's sake, we will eat. So, you see after Karbala, the lives of our Imams are an indication of what? Two things. And I will say this, and this is what I will complete my talk with today. Two things that are the most critical. One, each individual has to develop on their own. Each of you, each of us, every human being must develop what they believe, their conviction by themselves. It has to do with it. It has to be that way. You cannot be something you are because someone coerced you, someone forced you. You must understand for yourself why you believe what you do. And number two, you will see that how you should behave when the world around you is changing. That is the legacy of Imamat. That is totally and absolutely the legacy of our Imams. In the time of Imam al-Sajjad, he returns back to Medina after the tragedy of Karbala. And what does he do? In the moment of tragedy, he engages himself in nothing but worship. Dua, sajda, munajat, all of these things. He immerses himself in that. Not to say the other Imams did not, but we recognize this quality of Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam. He immerses himself, and he knows that the tyranny of the Banu Umayyah will continue. This continues in the time of Imam al-Baqir, and at the end of the life of Imam al-Baqir, after the Banu Marwan started to get weak, you see that now the lives of the Imams are changing. Before, there was too much tyranny. Imam couldn't speak out and say, I'm Ahl al-Bayt. Imam couldn't open his mouth and say, Shia, come to me. Imam couldn't do that. But in the time of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, they say Imam Baqir alayhi salam will go for Hajj, and he will stand in Hajj and he will call people to himself, saying, I am the Imam, come to me. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, when he has his school, thousands of students, openly they are coming to Imam al-Sadiq from all over. People to discuss, people to debate, people to learn. He has students doing the discussion openly. So you see society change, and the Imams who remain the same change to share whatever they have. Now after the time of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, the time of Imam al-Kadhim and Imam Rida alayhi salam is different. Imam Kadhim is imprisoned. His life, over 20 years of imprisonment. Movement from one jail cell to another. And the pain and the suffering of Bab al-Hawa'ij. And you see the difficulty of Imam Rida in a different way. That he is called up to Khurasan. And he is brought up in front of Ma'mun al-Abbasi. After the life of Imam Rida, now the time of Imam Jawad, Imam Hadi, Imam Askari, alayhimus salam, becomes very hard. And it becomes so hard that our beloved Imams did not live long lives. Imam Jawad, 27 years maybe, 25 to 27 years. Imam Hadi lived a little longer than that, but certainly not like his grandfather Rasool or like Imam Sadiq, who was 65 years old. Imam Askari alayhi salam, 25 years, 27 years, something like that. They didn't live long. And not only did they live long, they were continuously harassed, continuously persecuted, continuously. Now you say, if one of us was in such a situation because of what we believed, because of what religion we followed, how would we respond? Would we capitulate? Would we give in and say it's too difficult to be Shia? It's too difficult to be Muslim. It's too hard. And not only that, but not only is it hard for me personally to pray and pay my homes and to do the things I want to do, it is too hard for me to become a contributing person in society. Forget about helping anyone else, I can't help myself. And now Imamat is teaching us that no matter how difficult it has become, no matter how tight and how adverse the circumstances are, that there is always a way. There's always a way to help. And you see, even Imam Askari alayhi salam, who would answer questions from the prison cell, who would help out, even from the prison cell, as was the case with all of our Imams. Not only did they help the poor, but when the questions, the fiqh questions came, they would answer them and send letters through their deputies, through the people who they trusted. And so you see that there is an ideology of that Islam. That ideology has to be protected. One, within ourselves, and two, inside of society. And that society, my dear brothers and sisters, it affects us a lot, right? Imamat, it went through different societies, didn't it? It went through the oppression of Banu Umayyah, starting with Imam Ali alayhi salam and Muawiyah, through Imam Hasan, through Imam Hussein, through Imam Sajjad, Imam Baqir. During the time of Imam Sadiq's life, Banu Umayyah fell, Banu Marwan fell, Banu Abbas came into power. Same oppression, different approach. Oppressing by claiming to be the family of Rasulullah from the uncle Abbas. And not only being oppressive, but totally restricting. They say that Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, when he would be in his house, the Abbasi Khalif would send his guards and go in the middle of the night, bang the door down, break the door down of al-Hadi and pull him out. And they would come in the middle of the night, they would break the door of Imam Hadi's down, and they would pull him out into the cold of the night. They will not even let him wear his clothes. The Rawi says they would take him out in his home clothes. They wouldn't let him even put a robe over his body. That's how much they persecuted. Any ordinary human being will crumble. How much will you take? You would say the circumstances are too difficult for me. Society has made it too hard for me to practice, to believe, to be what I want to be. Yet Imamat didn't change. It was smart. Imamat was the smartest thing. Imam Rida alayhi salam, when Ma'mun said to him that, come, I want you to be the Khalifa. Imam says, no, leave me alone. I don't want anything. Then Ma'mun says, no, okay, you become my deputy. Once I die, you will take over. Imam says, no, I don't want any position, leave me. Ma'mun would keep forcing and pressuring him and pressuring him. Finally, Imam Rida, he says, okay, if you're forcing me, I'm bound. I'll have to do it. However, don't expect me to give any rulings. Don't expect me to give any judgments. I will not come in between in any way. I will not function in any way. Basically, he says, I'm only doing this because you forced me. And he was smart. Anytime they would catch the Imams in the prisons, the Abbasi Khalifs, they will call their prison guards, and they will say, what's Al-Kadhim doing in the prison? Al-Kadhim has been placed in the prison for so many years. What is he doing? Screaming and shouting, decrying the injustice, saying that I have been mistreated. What's he doing? Wailing, screaming. The prison guard comes back. He says to Harun al-Rashid, he says, Musa ibn Ja'far, he has not complained. He's not said one word. He doesn't open his mouth. He doesn't ask for anything, doesn't make requests. Harun al-Rashid, he says, what is he doing? He says, I see him praying all night and fasting all day. Praying all night, fasting all day, never saying one word. Never saying one word. Always saying, this is what Allah has chosen, and although circumstances around me are difficult, I will not change. I will be who I am. So we have to institute ideology, Islamic ideology into our lives. Is that easy? No, it's not. Can we say, let me go to Najaf, let me go to Qom, and I will be a proper Muslim there? Indeed, you will have easier time there. Food is halal. Well, Springfield probably has lots of halal places, right? Yes? No? You guys are not convincing me to ever move up here. I'm going to stay in Durham because we have lots of good halal burger places, fried chicken. We have halal Popeye's chicken. Ours is better because we're considered South, maybe. North Carolina is South, so you know fried chicken comes from the South, yeah? So Indeed, you moved to Najaf, you moved to Qom. Yes, easier. But does that mean you have become stronger? Or is it just that the society has made it easier for you to practice? Is that the question? Have you become a stronger Muslim because you live in Najaf, you live in Qom, you live in Mashhad, you live in Karbala, you live in Mecca, you live in Medina? Or is it just that the surroundings made it easier for you to practice? And if that's the case, we have to look at ourselves and say, indeed, I am not stronger, it's just circumstances are better. That's all. And that's not bad. It's not a bad thing to live in a society that supports your belief, but we all live here, do we not? And we face the challenges of living here. So does that mean that we are in bad luck compared to those who live in the East, in the Muslim society? Are we less fortunate? No. It actually means that we have an opportunity to cultivate what is inside of us so that we can deal with societal change, so that we can deal with all the things that are happening around us. And it begins, like I said, with ubudiyyah, with understanding of who we are with respect to Allah. That is the beginning of the philosophy or the ideology of Islam, is that you are what you are, but you are first the servant of God, nothing else. And to cultivate that will not change whether you live in Springfield or Durham, where the chicken is better, fried chicken, or you live in Alaska, or you live in Qom, or you live in South Africa, or you live in Russia. Ubudiyyah is ubudiyyah wherever you live. It does not change. And that's what Imam showed. And so, let me tell you a few things that maybe we need to consider. When it comes to ideology, we need to consider a few things. If we want that through the course of our life, we remain strong on our faith and our religious adherence, not drifting with the times, not drifting with the latest fashion or the pressure of how people live around us, we have to adopt certain things. One is an Islamic ideology. That is, like I said to you, that you accept yourself to be the servant of Allah and nothing else. And you all know this, and I mention this ayah a lot when I speak, because I find it to be very poignant, and at least it speaks to me, that when Isa alayhi salam was born and carried by his mother, and they asked her that, Maryam, you are from a good family, how is it you have had a child, you don't have a husband? What answer does she give? In fact, she doesn't give any answer. She doesn't speak. She remains silent. She gestures to Isa alayhi salam, newborn. And Quran describes that قال إني عبد الله أتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا. The ayah says that Isa alayhi salam, when he speaks, he says, إني عبد الله. He says, I am the servant of God. I am the servant of God. وجعلني نبيا. He made me into a prophet, not he created me as a prophet, or I am a prophet. He said, no, I am the servant of God. He made me into a prophet. I am servant first. And you see this in the lives of the Imam. Imam Askari, it is related, that when he was brought up to Samarra, he was in Samarra most of his life. Samarra, or Surra man Ra'a, the city was a garrison town. It's where the army or the soldiers will come and gather, and they will stay there. It wasn't a real city at that point. But he was held there by the Abbasi Khalif. When he was held there, they at one moment kept him in a prison. The Abbasi Khalif called one of his counselors and deputies, and he said to him, take two of your harshest prison guards, tell them to go and to make the life of Hasan ibn Ali alayhi salam as difficult as possible. Make his life difficult. Make it so hard that he will break. They go, some weeks go by, no word comes. The Abbasi Khalif wants to hear what is happening. So he calls the deputy. He says, I told you to send these two guards to make the life of Askari difficult, but I haven't heard anything. The man, he looks, he shrugs his shoulders. He says, what can I say to you? He said, what do you mean? What can I say to you? He says, I will let you tell them. I'll let them tell you. He goes, he brings the two prison guards. He says, how did you find these two prison guards? Were they harsh on Al-Askari? He says, no. He says, we found them praying inside the prison cell with Al-Hasan ibn Ali. He was praying inside there. So the Abbasi Khalifi asked the two prison guards, the ones who were supposed to be really harsh, he said, what happened to you? I called you, I ordered you to be harsh on him, to take all your cruelty out on him. Why didn't you do it? They said, what can we say about a man who prays all night, fasts all day, nothing but the name of Allah comes on his tongue. Nothing but the name of Allah comes on his tongue. And then they say something else. They say when he looks at us, it's as if something inside us quivers, shakes. We can feel the haiba of Hasan ibn Ali. That is the power of a believer. When he looks at us, we feel something, we shake inside. I'm paraphrasing. We shake inside. What can we say? They say after this, the Abbasi Khalifi let Imam go and let him go back to Baghdad. Let him go back to Baghdad. This is strength. That no matter what, you adhere to those principles. You must have an ideology of worship. That every act should be endeavored to be a worship. In the least, when you get up in the morning, now I'll tell you my routine. I get up, alhamdulillah, I do my salat al-fajr, I drink my qahwa. Not only do I drink my qahwa, I will have my English muffin, a little bit of butter. I'm giving you guys good extra details so you know what I do, yeah? Some of you may do the same, I don't know. You put a little extra butter on the muffin, yeah? I don't drink sugar or cream in my coffee, so if anyone's gonna get me coffee later, you know what I drink. So I drink it black and I eat my muffin, I go to work. Other than my niyyah, at the beginning of Salat al-Fajr, qurbatan ilallah, asking Allah for closeness, I ate that muffin, why? To please God? No, because my stomach was rumbling. I ate it. I had that coffee, why? Because my engine won't go without the caffeine in the morning, right? All of those things. I do all these things during the course of the day. How much of it is actually done for Allah? That did I actually eat that muffin so that it'll give me the strength so I can pray? Or that I went to work to earn a living, not because I want to live in a castle and drive a BMW. Indeed, I would love to do all those things. But I went to work because that's what Allah wants from me. Because Allah says, now it's hard, indeed it's hard, to say that every moment I'm going to think I'm doing it for Allah, I'm doing it for Allah, I'm doing it qurbatan Allah, qurbatan Allah, too hard. But in the least, maybe we wake up, the first thing when you get your head up off the pillow for Salat al-Fajr, maybe if you have gotten up for Salat al-Layl, you say, Ya Allah, today, maybe I won't remember you with every breath. Maybe I won't remember you at every moment when I eat or thank you for every blessing you've given me or take any step without taking your name first. But I'm going to say now at this moment, just as I lift my head off my pillow, that everything today I'm going to do fi sabilillah. Let's start with that, at least. It's an easy thing to do. You just get up in the morning, first thing you do, as you lift your head, you say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, get up on your right side and say, Ya Allah, everything today I'm going to do, I do for your pleasure. So you accept from me. That is how you begin to cultivate that ideology inside of yourself. So that's one thing. The second thing you have to do is you have to think about, to become strong on this path, when society is changing around you, is to consider not only the physical consequences of what you do, but the spiritual consequences as well. I will go in the morning, some mornings, Friday particularly. Friday is day of Utla for Muslims, right? So it's a good excuse. Friday, I get up, I'm not gonna eat my muffins or my whole bran muffin. I'm getting old because I need the bran and the cellulose to go through my system. Instead, I will go down to, not only do we have good fried chicken, we've got good donuts as well. So I go on Friday and I buy myself a dozen donuts and I eat like 6 of them at once. 6 of them. What have I done to myself? Basically, I'm writing myself an early death certificate, right? And I do this every Friday or every so often, because not only is it Friday evening, I'm going to have shai, so I have to have donut with it, right? And then some leftovers on Saturday, maybe I'll have that for breakfast. So that has physical consequence on my body, doesn't it? And I am acutely aware of that. I know it. And sometimes I get worried. I have to watch out. But have I considered the spiritual consequence of my life? That in today has to be considered. When society changes around you, you will find that it's not necessarily going to affect you physically, but it will affect you spiritually. Indeed it will. Because people are not going to tell you what to eat, they're not going to tell you what clothes to wear, but they're going to influence you with information and propaganda and ideas that will spiritually affect you. And Islam addresses it, right? Let me give you an example. I go out to play soccer, okay? I'm a big soccer player, I like to play a lot of soccer, all right? I'm getting a bit old, my knees hurt, but I go. I go out to play soccer, and halftime comes, I have to go to the bathroom. I don't mean to be telling you anything personal, but you gotta go to the bathroom sometimes. So halftime comes, I go run to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom, come back. It's a hot day. North Carolina, it's hot. You know, it gets like 100 degrees in the summer. I'm sweating, I slide tackle, I got dirt all over my body. I come home. By the way, my wife would probably tell me that this is a really poor example. She's like, not everybody likes to play soccer. Instead, you should say something like, I was working in the garden and I got really dirty. Or doing some other physical labor. We'll stick with soccer. I come home, I jump in the shower, I take a quick shower. As I come out of the shower, I dry myself, I go, it is dhuhr time, I stand on the musalla and I start praying. Is it allowed? Well, it is allowed. I can do whatever I want. I'm a free human being. Nobody's going to come out of the sky and hit me on the head and say, what are you doing? Right? Is it allowed for me to pray? Shara'an, no, it's not. You can pray, but is it accepted? No. I only went in, I showered, I came out, I dried myself, I went. Now, when I showered, I used, I don't know, I don't have any hair on my head. Sayyid will tell you, he's got a good head of hair, but me, not good. I'm bald. So that's why I don't take the hammam off in front of people. So you have, let's say I have hair, I use Pantene shampoo, yeah? Good smelling, herbal essence, I don't know, something. You'll get my point. I know I draw it out a little bit, but you'll get the point. Nice body soap, I don't know, lavender smelling, something good. I come out smelling good, all the sweat, all the dirt, everything's gone from my body. Why can't I stand and pray? My body's clean. My body is clean. My body has no dirt on it, no sweat on it. I smell great, I sprayed on a little Axe, right? Why can't I pray? Because you didn't do what? Wudu. But why do I need to do wudu? Why do I need to splash water on my arms and my face and do masah? Everything is clean already. Everything is washed. Everything is perfumed. There's no dirt. Maybe because there is something more than just the physical act of washing. One, obedience to God. Is it not? And when the person asked Rasulullah that, Ya Rasulullah, I can't concentrate in my salat. No matter what I do, I can't concentrate. I can't bring my mind to focus. What should I do? Rasulullah, he says, one solution, concentrate during your wudu. Concentrate during your wudu, and you will find your concentration in salat will get better. We do wudu like autopilot, right? Sometimes you don't even know how it even happened. It's like that, it's done. But why? Is it just the act of sheerly me washing my body? No, it is not. It is a spiritual act that connects you to Allah. That's why you do it, qurbatan ilallah. That's why it is required, because there is a spiritual aspect to you. So that's one thing. Consider the spiritual consequences of what you do versus the physical consequences. Now the third thing is think about the akhirah rather than just thinking about hayat al-dunya. It is very hard to think about a place where you don't know what it looks like, you cannot fathom it, you don't know what's waiting for you there, when everything in front of you is tangible and tactile and you can feel it. But ideology of Islam teaches us that this life is temporary, it will stop. And that the akhirah will keep going forever. And that when you build not only for hayat al-dunya, but for akhirah. And you ask yourself that today I earned a very good living, I ate my food that sustained me in this life, I built my house, I paid my bills, my electricity is on, but what did I do for the akhirah? What did I contribute for the akhirah? What did I give? That has to be considered. The fourth thing we have to think about is that fear should never decide anything for you. Fear should never be a condition of a decision you make. I am not talking about fear of Allah, I am talking about fear of this world, of anything in this world. Why do we make bad decisions? Because we are afraid of bad consequences. We are afraid of losing something that we feel is precious and valuable. And sometimes out of that fear, the decision is bad. The choice we make is bad. And that's why when the world changes around you, for example, you go to school, you go to work, and everyone around you is doing something that you know is against your religion, why do you sometimes do it too? Why do you feel pressured to do it? Because you are afraid. You are afraid that if you don't do it, you will fall out of favor, or you will suffer some loss. And you see, the example of the Imams was always about let everyone do what they want, we know who we are. Our Shia know who we are. And I say this, that how amazing is it that this band of 73 fighters who came out in Karbala and fought, and how did they change the hearts of people? 20 million today going to Karbala on the day of Arba'in, who knows how many million? 16 million to 18 million to 20 million? All how? How have they been changed? By deep faith and no fear. Let the world change. Let Yazid say what he wants. Let Umar ibn Sa'ad do what he wants. Let Muawiyah do what he wants. We will not be afraid to believe in what we believe. And that's why you see that even Imam Kadhim alayhi salam, that when he shared with us this beautiful dua Jawshan as-Saghir. Dua Jawshan as-Saghir, when you're feeling down, you're feeling like your life is crumbling, read the dua of Al-Kadhim alayhi salam, this dua. In one part of this dua, Imam Al-Kadhim alayhi salam, he says, ناديتك يا ربي مستجيرا بك واثقا بسرعة إجابتك متوكلا على ما لم أزل أتعرفه من حسن دفاعك عالما أنه لا يضطهد من آوى إلى ظل كنفك ولم تقرع الحوادث من لجأ إلى معقل الانتصار بك فحصنتني من بأسه بقدرتك. I will translate it for you. That ناديتك يا ربي مستجيرا بك. I called you, my Lord, seeking your refuge. واثقا بسرعة إجابتك. I knew for sure you're going to answer me. And not only answer me, سرعة الإجابة. How fast you're going to answer me, Ya Allah. I knew for sure. Nothing gave me doubt. I knew for sure. متوكلا على ما لم أزل أتعرفه من حسن دفاعك. I was dependent on the fact that after today, I'm again paraphrasing, summarizing, I was sure, dependent on the fact that after today, tomorrow will come, the next day will come, the next week will come, and you will still be showering your goodness on me, especially your protection that surrounds me. Not just today, but tomorrow, the day after. I knew, and I knew that your refuge will save me from any insult or any attack that comes against me. I know it. This is the cultivation, that's what will save us, this feeling that I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. And I will withstand any difficulty because in me it will cultivate a feeling of fortitude. And remember that once you slip once and you continue to slip, it will become much easier the second, the third, the fourth time to give in to fear. Fear is that sort of thing. The last thing that I want to say is that everything we do has to have a social context. And that is imamat at its greatest. That it takes one individual who has this profound love of God, profound dutifulness and loyalty to Allah, and it spreads goodness everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it does so such that it becomes the one that overwhelms the attitudes of others rather than it becoming overwhelmed. Do you understand what that means? That we are profoundly influenced by the world around us. Let me give you an example. I am a scientist, so I look at scientific studies always. They did a study in which, you'll find this funny a little bit, and I'm not advocating anything here, I'm just telling you the study, okay? So they did a study in which they got some people, test subjects, they brought them into the room, and they showed them some faces. And they just showed them the face of different individuals, people they didn't know. And they said to them, rate how attractive you think that face looks. Okay, now obviously, take that as it may. Islam always says to practice modesty and chastity, so I will say that, and now I will tell you the study. So these people came in, they looked at different faces, men and women. Face comes up, man's face, woman's face, man's face, all different faces are coming up, and they're rating how attractive they think that face is. All in numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. They are rating, all right? They're rating some people as very attractive, some people as not so attractive, whatever their personal choices. Now after that, they brought these same test subjects in, again, to do the same thing, all right? They showed them the same faces. And they said to them, this time, however, before you rate the face, before you give it a rating of attractive or not attractive or medium, I don't know if there's medium attractive maybe, somewhere in the middle. Before you do that, we're going to show you something else immediately after we show you the picture of the face. We are going to show you either a hand pressing a number, 1 to 10. You'll see the hand, all you see is a little video of a hand pressing the number, 10, 1, 8, whatever it is. Or we'll show you a number, 1 through 10. So they will look at the face, and then either they will see a 6, or they'll see a hand pressing a 8, or something like that. The researcher said, after that happens, after you see the hand or the number, score the face again. Go ahead and score it. Do you know what they determined? They determined that, let's say, on the first try, I was there and I saw a face that I rated as a 5. Okay, not very generous, not attractive, not unattractive, but I rated it as a 5. They found that the second time around, when I saw that face, that same face that I rated a 5, but after it, if I saw the number 2, my rating for that face went down. From a 5 to, let's say, a 4, just because I saw the 2. Because 2 in my mind was unattractive. More than that, let's say I saw that face that I rated as a 5 in attractiveness, and after that I saw the hand come and press a 1, for instance. A 1 was pressed, and I saw the finger go and press the 1 like that. I then rated that one that I called a 5, or rated it as a 5. After seeing the hand press the 1, I rated it a 2. My number changed drastically. And they surmised that this is something called conformity. And we don't even know that we're doing it. Just by seeing a hand pressing a number, it changes your mind. Just the way you saw your hand touching the number. Why? Because you felt that someone else was doing this and your number was skewed, was too far off. So you changed your number to match the other person's number. Imagine how society affects you. Something small like that. And think about the things we see on YouTube and our Instagram and TVs today, and how it affects our mentality, right? And again, I say that Imamat shows the lesson that you don't change. You should be who you are, who you influence the other, they don't influence you. Because you know who you are. That its effect on you may be there, but you will be able to override it, and instead you will become a beacon of goodness and light and perfect example to somebody else. And that's why I say that the final thing of the ideology of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salatu was-salam, of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, is the fact that you as an individual, certainly you can live up in a mountain, in a cave, worship Allah, not break any of His laws, and be a good Muslim. But truly to be a mu'min and a muttaqi and someone who sacrifices like Imam Hussein means that I come into society and I spread goodness. And I do so not only by considering myself or who I am or what I believe, but what I need to do to spread goodness. And how is it that my strength, my fortitude can become an example for someone else? Particularly in our centers, my dear brothers and sisters. Our centers should be a place that welcomes everyone. They should be administered, they should be run so that every Muslim, anyone can walk in and feel this is a house of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Because our A'imma al-Athhar, what anchored them, and again, understand my meaning. Understand that I am not saying it is bad to be proud of your nationality or your culture, but pride over nationality and culture doesn't make you a strong mu'min. Because society invariably will change. Being a good Pakistani or Afghani or Russian or Haitian or South American or anything will not make you mu'min, because invariably South America 100 years from now will not be the South America it is today. Najaf will not be what it is today. The world is changing. That's why the only thing that doesn't change is what? Ubudiyya of Allah and adherence to the ways of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. We should take a poll next time. How many of you eat donuts tomorrow morning? I should have said donuts a few more times, and I guarantee you will wake up in the morning and you say, Ya Allah, fi sabilillah, I will eat donuts today. And they will be good. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك ونقسم عليك بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها لعن الله ظالميها. اللهم شافي كل مريض، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك يا كريم، اللهم وفقنا لمراضيك وجنبنا معاصيك، وثبت أقدامنا على صراطك المستقيم، وخذ بأيدينا إليك يا أرحم الراحمين، وفرج عنا يا الله فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر أو هو أقرب من ذلك، وافرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين.